The first time she tried to ruin my life, it was over a mistake her first love made during a medical procedure. That night, my world narrowed to the confines of a sterile hospital room. Across from me sat Clara, the woman I thought I would spend my life with. In her hands, she held a confession I was meant to sign, a document that would take the fall for him. On the bed between us, my father's breath came in ragged, shallow gasps, his eyes shut tight against the pain. Clara's fingers toyed with the valve on his oxygen tube, a casual gesture that held all the power in the world. "Ethan, you have 2 minutes," she said, her voice devoid of the warmth I once loved. "If you don't sign this, your father suffocates. That will be on you." A tremor ran through my entire body, and I felt the blood drain from my face. My lips were numb. "Clara," I whispered, my voice cracking. "If I don't sign, will you actually kill my dad?" A low, cold laugh escaped her. "Ethan, your father is important, but Leo is the most important person to me. I gave you my hand in marriage, so this is how I repay him." She leaned forward, her gaze fixed on my father, who was now making desperate, rasping sounds as his lungs fought for air. With a morbid curiosity, Clara began to count aloud. 40, 41, 42. With each number, a piece of me seemed to crumble. How did we get here? We were from different worlds, that much was true. I was just an ordinary surgeon, and she was the wealthy heiress to a massive corporation. To convince her family to let her marry me, she had knelt in the pouring rain for a full day and night. I remember the day we received our marriage certificate. She clung to me, sobbing with what I thought was pure joy. "Ethan," she'd cried, "our wedding will be the grandest this city has ever seen." In the 2 years that followed, our wedding had been called off twice. The first time, her childhood friend Leo had threatened to take his own life. She had left me standing alone at the altar. Her parting words were, "Ethan, I love you. I'll be back as soon as I calm him down. Wait for me." I waited from noon until the sun set, but Clara never returned. I became the biggest joke in South City. The second attempt at a wedding ended just as we were picking out the rings. A tearful phone call from Leo was all it took for her to drop everything and run to his side. Later, I saw her at the hospital, carefully fussing over Leo, whose only injury was a small bandage wrapped around his finger. I realized then that she had abandoned me, abandoned our wedding, for a minor scratch on another man's hand. The woman who once begged me to marry her, who promised to cherish and protect me forever, was now the one causing me the most profound pain. Tears welled in my eyes as my hand slowly reached for the pen. I scrawled my name, my signature a testament to my defeat. "Clara, I hate you," I choked out, tossing the signed confession onto the table. I rushed to my father's side, fumbling to reconnect the oxygen tube. Unbothered, Clara gracefully picked up the paper. "Love always comes with a little hate, Ethan. I know you love me," she said smoothly. "And don't worry, you will always be Clara Miller's husband. Our wedding is in 1 week. This time I promise you a ceremony grander than any other." She left, and I could only sneer at the hollow promise of a wedding. Pulling out my phone, I dialed my friend, Dr. Mason, a trusted colleague. "Mason," I said, my voice urgent, "you mentioned my father's condition could be treated overseas. Can we arrange for his transfer now?" "Of course," he replied without hesitation. "If you're serious, he can fly over on my private jet in 3 days when I head back to the U.S. You handle things on your end first, then come join him." "I'll be there about 4 days later," I confirmed. "See you then." I hung up and looked at my father's peaceful, sleeping face. "Dad," I whispered, "we're going to leave this place and never come back. We'll go somewhere no one can ever hurt you again." After leaving the hospital, I drafted divorce papers and went straight to the hospital where Leo and I both worked. He, of course, was already a chief physician, while I was still just an associate. "Ethan, thanks so much for your help," Leo sneered the moment he saw me. "So you won't be a doctor anymore, huh?" I ignored his taunt and threw the divorce agreement onto his desk. "Get Clara to sign this. I'm finished with both of you." Leo's eyes widened when he saw the papers. A cruel smile spread across his face. "And why would I help you?" "Because if you don't," I said, my voice low and steady, "you'll always be the other man. A homewrecker." He paused, considering my words. Then he let out a short, sharp laugh. "Did you know," he said, leaning back in his chair, "that your marriage certificate with Clara was a fake?" The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I staggered back a step, my eyes wide with disbelief. "What?" Leo looked down on me with utter contempt. "You really thought you could marry into the Miller family? That entire ceremony, the certificate, it was all a show. The Millers can get a fake marriage certificate from the registry as easily as buying groceries. Go check for yourself if you don't believe me." He savored the sight of my devastation. "And by the way," he added as a final blow, "Clara knows." What he conveniently left out was that Clara had only discovered the truth a month ago, but that detail didn't matter now. My mind reeled back to the day we got married. I remembered the pure joy I felt, the way Clara had driven me to the top of a mountain to watch the stars. We had kissed under that romantic, endless sky, promising each other a lifetime of happiness. Now I understood it was all a beautifully constructed lie. A hysterical laugh escaped my lips, tears streaming down my face. I felt unsteady, as if my legs could give out at any moment. Somehow, I made my way back to the villa, the house that was supposed to be my and Clara's home. I remembered how she had planted a grapevine in the yard just for me because I liked grapes, and how she'd installed a swing where we would sit together on warm summer evenings. Now, I grabbed a shovel from the shed and began to tear it all down, hacking at the grapevine and knocking down the arbor. It was just like our love, shattered and destroyed. Inside, I pulled our giant wedding portrait from the wall and carried it to the fireplace. I burned it, along with the 99 love letters she had written me, watching as our shared history turned to ash. Just as the last letter was consumed by the flames, Clara returned. She frowned at the fire. "What are you doing? It's bad luck to burn things in the morning," she muttered. As she spoke, staff members began carrying in box after box of brand-new Rolex watches. Leo appeared right behind them. "These are for Leo," Clara explained, gesturing to the lavish gifts. "He's been through a scare and needs some comforting. I know you're not into this kind of stuff, Ethan, so I didn't get you one." She then pulled a small, paper-cut bunny from her pocket and offered it to me. "This is for you. I love you." I stared at the paper bunny, then at the millions of dollars worth of watches being presented to her childhood friend. A bitter, sarcastic smile twisted my lips. A priceless gift for him, a worthless trinket for me. The injustice of it all was suffocating. Seeing my hesitation, Clara's tone sharpened. "Ethan." So I took the bunny, tossed it onto a nearby table, and muttered, "Thanks." Normally I would have treasured anything she gave me, no matter how small. I never would have thrown it away. Clara bit back a retort as Leo handed me a file. "Thanks for today," he said with a smirk. "Here's a little gift from me." Clara, curious, tried to peek, but Leo pulled her back. "This is guy stuff, don't look—" Fine, whatever you say," Clara replied, turning her attention back to unpacking the watches with him. The sight of them together, so cozy and intimate, made my stomach churn. With a blank expression, I opened the envelope. Inside were 2 photographs. The first showed a man and woman, clearly Leo and Clara, wearing bathrobes and standing by a hotel window, beaming at the camera. The second was far more explicit. It showed them naked, locked in a passionate kiss in bed. The single snapshot was enough to hint at the intense intimacy of the moment. I gripped the photos so tightly my knuckles turned white, the veins on my forehead bulging. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I couldn't hold it back. I ran outside and threw up against the courtyard wall. As I was retching, I could hear their laughter filtering through the glass. Clara and Leo were sitting shoulder to shoulder on the couch, looking as if they were about to kiss. Since I had decided to leave, I needed to quit my job. But after signing that confession, it turned out I didn't even need to resign. The hospital had already sent me a message informing me of my termination. Early the next morning, I went to the hospital to pack my things. After several years of working there, I had very few personal belongings. The only thing that seemed important was a medical record book filled with valuable case studies I had planned to use for future research. Just as I finished packing and stepped out of the hospital, 2 rotten eggs splattered against my shirt. "Incompetent doctor!" someone screamed. "You killed my dad! You have to pay for this!" "Heartless monster! You killed a patient!" another voice yelled. Suddenly, I was being pelted with the leaves, water bottles, and whatever else the angry crowd could find. In a moment of inattention, a hard object struck my forehead, and I staggered back. Ahead of me, I saw Clara embracing Leo as he arrived for work. She stood on the edge of the chaos, coldly observing the scene unfold. "It wasn't me!" I wanted to scream, to explain. But an enraged family member shoved a newspaper article in my face. "The hospital made it official. It was your mistake that killed my dad." The article, released by the hospital, detailed the medical incident. At the bottom, my photo was plastered for all to see, clearly labeling me as the one responsible. There was not a single mention of Leo. I clenched my fists, my eyes locking with Clara's from across the furious crowd. A moment later, she and Leo turned and walked away. As they passed, someone slapped me hard across the face, and I fell to the ground. Through the gaps in the legs of the people surrounding me, I saw Clara walk past without so much as a second glance in my direction. "Clara, what if Ethan gets hurt?" I heard Leo ask in a pitiful voice. A few seconds later, Clara's emotionless reply drifted back to me. "He's been through this kind of thing since he was a child. This is nothing to him. You're different. Those brutes shouldn't be allowed to lay a single finger on you." She pulled Leo closer, protecting him as if he were made of glass. "As the future son-in-law of the Miller family, you have to be protected." Her voice faded as they disappeared into the hospital. I remained on the ground, beaten and berated, tears of humiliation and despair streaming down my face. "Ha ha ha," I laughed, a broken sound. "Serves you right. Clara, you really are something else. You never let me down." I remembered a time when Clara had a stomachache. Despite not being a good cook, I had made a meal for her. I had gotten a small cut on my finger, and she had cradled my hand, nearly beside herself with worry, wanting to call a doctor. I had laughed at her then for overreacting, telling her that as a doctor myself, I knew a small cut was nothing. "Ethan, you're the most important person in my life," she had said. "Don't even talk about cuts. I'd worry even if you just trimmed your nails." The same person who once claimed to love me so fiercely had now pushed me into the line of fire, abandoning me to the wolves. I laughed and cried at the same time, feeling as if I were going insane. Perhaps my madness frightened the family members because they eventually left, cursing me as they went. Once they were gone, security guards arrived, but I refused their help. I dragged my injured body to my father's ward. I had to pack his things and prepare the discharge papers. Once everything was ready, I sent a message to Dr. Mason. "Dad, wait for me. I'll be in the U.S. soon to find you." "What's your plan in the U.S.? Clara's voice, like a recurring nightmare, came from behind me, making me freeze. I stood up, trying to appear casual. "Nothing much. A friend is getting married, and I've been invited to the wedding." She eyed me suspiciously, but I calmly handed her my phone. Luckily, I had prepared a fake chat history in advance. After reading it, Clara snorted, tossing my phone onto the bed. If I hadn't caught it in time, it would have hit my father's stomach. The sudden movement pulled at the wound on my arm, and I gasped in pain. Clara, however, seemed oblivious. She yanked me by the wrist and dragged me out of the room. "Come with me to Leo's office." "I'm not going," I said, trying to pull away. "Clara, let go of me. You wanted me to sign the papers, and I did. What more do you want?" "Leo needs your thesis for a paper he's working on. Give it to him." I had published numerous papers on my path to becoming a surgeon. These were the results of countless hours of painstaking trials and experiments. And now she wanted me to just give them away. I bent down and bit her arm hard. "I'm not going." As I turned to leave, she grabbed me by the neck. "Ethan, you still haven't learned to be obedient," she hissed. "Because of you, Leo can't be my husband. This is your compensation to him." That phrase again. A wave of utter powerlessness washed over me. "Clara, let's break up," I said, my voice flat. "You can make him your husband." For a moment she was stunned. Then she laughed mockingly. "Break up? We're married, Ethan, you know that. With my status, divorce is not an option." She tightened her grip on my neck, forcing me to look at her. A cruel smile played on her lips. "Besides, could you bear to leave me? You gave up a chance to study abroad for my sake. You said it was your greatest honor to become my husband. On the day we got our marriage license, I thought I was the happiest man alive. Now I felt like the world's biggest fool." I said nothing, and Clara, seeming to be in a good mood, started humming a tune as she half-dragged, half-embraced me on the way to Leo's office. Leo's family was in the medical device business. He had graduated, obtained a medical license overseas, and was then placed in a top hospital as a chief physician. Everything I had achieved was through my own hard work. "Ethan, I'm really sorry," Leo said, not sounding sorry at all. "But Clara said what's yours is mine now, so I shouldn't have to worry. Why don't you send your paper to my computer? Also, there's a case here that needs solving." He beckoned me over to his desk. Clara sat nearby, legs crossed and arms resting on her knee, observing the scene like a queen overseeing her court. Leo stood beside her, leaning in to whisper in her ear occasionally. I sat down in Leo's chair and came face to face with his computer screen. The desktop background was a photo of Clara and him kissing. The date stamp on the photo was from a year ago. A fresh wave of nausea hit me, and I gripped the mouse tightly. "Ugh!" Leo rushed over, his face a mask of distress. "Ethan, did you just delete my desktop files? Clara, what am I going to do? The hospital needed that data, and now it's gone. Are they going to yell at me?" He immediately shifted the blame to me. "I know you're jealous, Ethan, but you shouldn't joke around with important data." I almost laughed out loud. "Leo, have you ever even stepped foot in a laboratory? Where would you even get data?" Before I could finish, Clara slapped me across the face. Her voice was cold and sharp. "Ethan, apologize." I stared at her stubbornly. "Clara, use your brain. If I deleted the files, they would be in the recycle bin. But you didn't even bother to check before you hit me. You just blindly protect him." Before she could respond, Leo chimed in. "The recycle bin can be cleared too. Ethan, I know you're jealous, but I promised I'd keep my distance from Clara. No need, Clara said, placing a hand on Leo's shoulder and staring gravely at me. He needs to learn a lesson. She patted Leo's shoulder, then marched over, roughly pulling me by the wrist and dragging me out of the office. She locked me in a laboratory. Since you deleted Leo's data, she said through the door, you can stay in here and recreate it. Have it done by 8 p.m. tomorrow. Ethan, don't disappoint me. With that, she shut the lab door, leaving with Leo. I had spent countless hours in that lab and was familiar with all the equipment. I had no idea what experiment Leo was talking about, or what data he supposedly needed. It was obvious he was just looking for an excuse to cause trouble, and it was equally obvious that Clara believed every word he said. I chuckled to myself, a hollow, bitter sound. I was leaving in a few days and didn't want to stir up any more drama. Reluctantly, I decided to just slap together some random experiment to give them something, anything to appease them. Just as I reached for a glass tube, my eyes caught a faint glint of something underneath it. My pupils widened in shock, but I couldn't pull my hand back in time. A scream and an explosion happened almost simultaneously. The lab door blew open from the force of the blast. Though I had tried to duck, sharp pieces of glass still sliced into my face, arms, and legs. I was thrown back, falling into the narrow gap between some heavy cabinets. Smoke from the explosion quickly filled the room, and I started coughing uncontrollably. A sharp, searing pain shot through my legs, and I realized I had to crawl my way out. Hacking with each movement, every inch felt like a mile, draining the last of my strength. I barely made it to the doorway, my vision blurring. I reached out a hand, instinctively seeking help from the people I could hear rushing down the hall. "Help! Help me!" I mumbled, lifting my head. From my low vantage point, I could see Clara's icy face peering down at me. She was nestled tenderly against Leo. She cast a cold, dismissive glance at me, bleeding on the ground. "Clara," Leo murmured softly. She quickly patted his back. "It's okay," she replied gently. Then, she turned her rage-filled eyes on me and kicked me. "Look what you've done. I'm really disappointed in you, Ethan." With that, she left, holding Leo firmly in her embrace and heading towards the emergency room. Already weak from my injuries, the force of her kick was enough to make me pass out. In the hazy moments before darkness took me, I watched her figure slowly disappear down the hall. I woke up in a hospital room with bandages wrapped around my face. Clara was sitting in a chair nearby, her arms crossed. As I stirred, she glanced over at me coldly. "You're awake. Let's go. It's time to apologize." My mind was a fog of confusion, but she had no intention of explaining. She ripped the IV line from my arm, ignoring the bead of blood that welled up from the pinhole, and rudely hauled me out of the bed. "Ouch! Clara, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm injured!" She didn't even let me put on my shoes, dragging me barefoot out of the room. "Injured?" she scoffed. "You caused a medical incident just to harm Leo. If you're hurt, that's what you deserve." I stumbled along, my bare feet aching on the cold floor, but no physical pain could compare to the sting of her accusations. Did she really believe I had caused the explosion out of jealousy? I laughed, a hollow, empty sound, and looked at her with a strange expression. "Clara, I'm sorry I ever loved you. You are a truly terrible person." Maybe it was the unnerving combination of my laughter and tears, but she finally let go of me near the elevator. I slammed into the wall, crying out in pain as the impact jarred my injuries. Unfazed, Clara coldly declared, "Ethan, I know this is all about jealousy. I'll let you off this time. Just wait for the wedding." Then she turned and walked away, not mentioning the apology again. 3 days before the so-called wedding, I was dragged to a party at the Miller family's estate. Before we went in, I saw the supposedly injured Leo wearing the exact same suit as me, though his was clearly more tailored. He had a small band-aid on his forehead. When he spotted me, he smiled sheepishly. "Ethan, did Clara give you a hard time? She was just overreacting. I told her it was nothing and not to bother you, but she insisted it was all your fault, that you were the one who made me get hurt." He smirked, adding, "No hard feelings, right?" Though I caught the provocative glint in his eye, I just shook my head. "No, it's fine." Leo gave a knowing nod. "Good." He led the way into the venue, arm in arm with Clara, while I trailed behind them like a servant. The funny thing was, in all the time we had been together, I had never attended any of Clara's social events. Mostly it was because I was too busy with work, but Clara had always claimed it would be inconvenient. She surrounded herself with elite socialites, and I was just a regular person. Back then, I thought she was sparing me from potential awkwardness. Now I realized it was probably because she was embarrassed by me. I listened as Leo introduced her around. As a couple, they looked dazzling, effortlessly navigating the glamorous crowd. But wherever I went, I felt disdainful glances, as if I were some kind of novelty item on display. Having become a top surgeon on my own merit, I had always believed that one didn't need endless wealth to be happy. I was content with my life, simply glad to be with the person I loved. But feeling those judgmental eyes on me, I painfully recognized the vast gap between myself and this elite, wealthy class. Clara remained oblivious, or perhaps she just didn't care. She allowed them to size me up like a commodity, without saying a word. "Clara, is this your assistant? He's quite charming." "Clara, you've got a handsome companion. Why not introduce him to us?" A group of women gathered, chatting with Clara while I stood there, watching her expression darken. She said nothing, only shooting me a warning look. I stayed silent, following her lead. "Oh, stop joking," Leo interjected smoothly, pulling me along. "Ethan isn't her assistant. He's a friend of mine. Meet our friends. It's good to know them." I obliged with a smile, introducing myself and noting how Clara's expression grew darker with each person I met. Eventually, a young woman extended her hand to me. "Ethan, would you like to dance?" I took her hand with a genuine smile. "I'd love to." I walked away with her, beaming back at Clara without a hint of discomfort. "Bastard," I saw Clara mouth bitterly. Just as she was about to speak, Leo cut in. "Clara, let's dance too." As we moved around the dance floor, he smugly remarked, "Looks like Ethan is quite familiar with these kinds of settings. You won't have to worry about him in the future." While they danced, Clara was clearly distracted. As soon as the song ended, she let go of Leo. "Richard, you said he seemed like he'd blended into these parties before." Leo feigned innocence. "It was just a feeling I had. Seeing him dance so comfortably, it's like he's used to it. He's not secretly partying all the time, is he?" His words were laced with insinuation, planting a seed of doubt. In their social circles, people used all sorts of means to elevate their status. Clara's face soured. A moment later, she stormed over to where I was dancing and yanked me away, right in the middle of the crowded dance floor, earning gasps from those around us. After we left, Leo smoothly took over as the host, maneuvering effortlessly around the room. Clara dragged me to a private medical center and forced me into a humiliating full-body examination with a particular emphasis on neurological and reproductive health. After the tests were done, her face was a mask of fury as she slammed a report down in front of me. "Ethan, you lied to me! You said it was your first time with me. How do you explain this?" The report she tossed at me claimed I had been diagnosed with erectile dysfunction due to prolonged and uncontrolled sexual activity. I, who had just recently suffered burns from an explosion and a physical assault, was now being choked by Clara. I was barely hanging on. With a wry smile, I managed to say, "Clara, why are you doubting me? Don't you know exactly how much experience I have? For the past couple of years, we were together almost every day. Her high demands kept me busy nearly every night. But now, those memories felt like knives twisting in my gut." Clara spoke with utter disdain. "No wonder you're so obedient. Who knows how many others you've been with?" She finally released her grip, and I collapsed to the floor like a discarded doll. Looking down at me as if she were a queen addressing a peasant, she said, "I won't divorce you. I'll still give you a grand wedding. But Ethan, after we get married, you're quitting your job. You will stay home and be my husband quietly, without showing your face in public." With that, she left without a single backward glance, as if marrying me was a great favor she was bestowing upon me, one I had no right to refuse. As soon as she was gone, 2 men in black suits came in. They took me back to Clara's villa against my will, locked me inside, and left after taking all the food from the house. They had been given orders not to deliver anymore. This was all Clara's doing. For 2 days, I was trapped in the villa without food. I was only freed on the day of the wedding. Starved for 2 days, I looked ghostly pale, but no one seemed to care about my condition. The Miller family's only daughter was getting married, and after the first 2 attempts had been public jokes, this third one was set to be even grander. But this time, the groom had changed. Clara's mother and Leo came into the room with a makeup artist. Her mother averted her eyes when she saw me, muttering, "Unlucky." Then she addressed me directly. "Don't get any ideas about marrying my daughter. Leo is the groom today, not you. You're only a groomsman. Just go through the motions." She looked at me with open disdain. "I only agreed to let you go on stage as a groomsman because Clara wanted it." I felt my nails digging into my palms, nearly laughing at the absurdity of it all. "How nice of you, Clara. You really never disappoint. Doubting me, forcing me to take fake medical tests, and now a fake wedding where I was to be a groomsman. She seemed to have thought of everything." Luckily for her, I had no plans to go on stage that day. I smiled at her mother. "Don't worry, Auntie. I'll behave today." With a huff, Clara's mother left to be with Leo. Dressed in a custom-made suit with an expensive watch on his wrist, he rode off in the main wedding car with her. After they left, a servant pointed to a plain black car parked at the back of the driveway. "Ethan, this is your car." The lead car was a Rolls-Royce worth tens of millions. Mine was a regular car worth less than 10,000. I didn't get in. Instead, I returned to the villa, changed out of the groomsman's suit and into my own t-shirt and jeans, grabbed the suitcase I had already packed, and left in a pre-booked car, ignoring the protests of the staff. After I left, a servant tried to call Clara but couldn't get through. They then called her mother, who simply said she knew and hung up. I could imagine her patting Leo's hand, saying, "Leo, you're my son-in-law now, my favorite." My car sped towards the airport. Security, boarding. Everything went smoothly. Just as the airplane door closed, right around the time the wedding was scheduled to begin, I sent a single message to a hacker I had hired. "Go for it. I want them ruined." The first 2 Miller family weddings had been jokes, so this third one was held at the city's most luxurious hotel. The venue was extravagant, a dreamy landscape of purple that looked like an ocean of violets. I loved violets, and I knew this was a special preparation she had made for me. Clara probably thought the wedding was unfair to me, but that since I had a lower social status, just walking through the ceremony should be okay. After all, I didn't care about such things, right? And besides, I had wronged Leo first, so this was my way of making amends. Someday she would bring me glory. The time for the ceremony arrived. Clara waited with her bouquet for her escort. The next moment she was stunned. Leo stepped out, dressed in white, with no sign of me behind him. He smiled and reached out to her. "Clara, I can finally marry you." Clara didn't take his hand. She stared at him. "Where's Ethan? Wasn't he supposed to be the groomsman? This wedding was supposed to be for the three of us." Leo shrugged innocently. "I don't know. I've been calling him all morning, but he hasn't answered. The staff at the villa said they haven't seen him. Maybe he's upset that I took his spot as the groom. But we can't just stand here, Clara. Everyone is watching." His words were met with impatient looks from her parents and Leo's family. With all eyes on them, Clara couldn't act rashly. She hid her doubts, placed her hand in Leo's, and reluctantly went through with the ceremony. The moment the vows and ring exchange were completed, she rushed backstage to call me. My phone rang and rang, but I didn't answer. Her face turned grim, her hand gripping the phone so tightly her knuckles were white. "Clara, we're expected for toasts. They're waiting for us," Leo said, approaching her with a glass of champagne. For the first time, she completely ignored him. "Enough," she snapped. "The ceremony is over. I fulfilled my promise. I have things to do." She briskly walked away, ignoring his protests. Clara drove back to the villa, finding the gates wide open. The only car parked in the driveway was the cheap one I was supposed to have taken. The driver was complaining to a servant. "I was supposed to pick someone up, but they never showed. Now I'm getting blamed for it. It's not my fault he ran off." "It's not your fault," the servant comforted him. "Who knew he'd just leave like that?" Clara stopped and approached the driver, grabbing him by the back of his neck. "What did you say? Who ran?" Terrified by her glare, the driver stammered. The one I was supposed to pick up. It's not my fault he ran off as I was parking. They told me not to chase him. I'm just doing my job." Clara's eyes darted to the car, a look of confusion on her face. "Who sent you? When did I say to pick someone up?" Despite planning for me to be a groomsman, she hadn't intended for me to drive myself. She had arranged a proper wedding car for me, my favorite model, a Maserati. "Go," she said, releasing the driver harshly. He scrambled away, silent with fear. Inside, the villa was empty. The rooms were vacant, save for the discarded ribbons from the morning's preparations and the groomsman's suit she had chosen for me, which lay on the couch with a torn corner. She searched the entire house but found no trace of me. Not only that, but all of my things were gone. The shared paintings, the photos, my beloved plants, my collection of medical books, all of it had vanished, as if I had never existed. Had I left her? No, impossible, she must have thought. She probably convinced herself that her Ethan would never leave her. I had stayed in this city, turning down international opportunities and offers from prestigious hospitals, all for the love of her. I wouldn't just leave. She clutched the untouched suit, sinking onto the couch and sitting there all day, letting time slip by until Leo's return finally woke her from her stupor. "Clara, everyone was talking about how you just left. You didn't even stay with me," he complained, clutching her arm. "Let's go on our honeymoon. Bali? Singapore?" "Enough!" Clara suddenly snapped, her voice sharp and cold. "Who said anything about a honeymoon? Don't forget we're just fake married. The only person I'm traveling with is Ethan." With that, she shoved him aside and stood up to leave. Then, she must have remembered something. My father was still in the hospital. He was sick and couldn't be easily transferred. She didn't believe I would leave without visiting him. She sped to the hospital, but when she reached my father's ward, the room was empty. "Where is he?" she yelled, grabbing a passing nurse. "Ma'am, let go of me or I'll call the police!" The nurse shrieked, startled. Clara took a deep breath and pointed at the empty bed. "The person who was in this bed. Where did they go?" The nurse looked at her suspiciously. "Oh, you mean the man who was in a coma? He was transferred a long time ago. You're his family, right?" Didn't you know? Transferred. Clara swayed on her feet, leaning against the wall for support. How could he have been transferred without her knowing? A cold fear must have crept over her then. If she lost that final connection to me, she would have no idea where to find me. She staggered away, calling my phone again and again, but it went straight to voicemail. She found herself near the cordoned-off site of the lab explosion. As she walked by, she overheard some nurses talking. Poor Ethan, getting caught up in all of this. Weren't the pipes clogged or something? How did they pin it all on him? He was a victim too. Tell me about it. I heard the real culprit was... The nurse gestured upwards and the others fell silent. For the first time, a flicker of doubt must have entered her mind. She probably recalled walking past with Leo, seeing me lying on the ground, surrounded by debris. Leo had a small cut on his forehead, and he was so vain about his looks that she had to get him to a doctor immediately. As for me, well, others were there. I'd be fine. Besides, the explosion was my fault, wasn't it? Maybe I'd learned my lesson. Clara had never thought she did anything wrong, but now she wasn't so sure. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to her assistant. Look into the explosion at the Central Hospital lab. After leaving the hospital, she bumped into Leo outside. He looked dejected, like a puppy that had been abandoned. Clara, are you really leaving me? Are you going to let me become a laughingstock? The families had originally planned for them to be engaged, but Clara had eyes only for me. She had insisted on canceling her engagement to Leo to marry me. The Millers, under pressure, had forged the fake marriage certificate to appease her. They had promised both families a resolution, which was to finally allow the two of them to marry legally. This third wedding was supposed to be the real one. Before it, Clara had discovered her original certificate with me was fake, and her family had declared that she could never legally wed anyone else but Leo. Conveniently, he had stepped up, offering a fake marriage to solve the public relations nightmare. The plan was a legal marriage where I could still be her public husband. He would get a legal identity tied to the Miller fortune, and she could continue her relationship with me. Clara had agreed, feeling she owed him and had been compensating him for it ever since. Our arrangement is over, she told him firmly. I'm not going back with you. She headed for her car, but Leo darted in front of the door. At least drive me home, Clara. You can't just leave me to deal with them alone. Around them, a crowd was approaching, carrying banners that read, "Corrupt doctor, give us justice." After the initial medical mishap was blamed on me, a mob had targeted me. Now, for some reason, they had turned their attention to Leo. Clara hurried him into the car as the crowd pressed in, pounding on the windows. "Justice! Justice! Come out, you murderous doctor!" "Get out of the way!" she shouted, startling Leo. "Who leaked this information?" he stammered. "I don't know. I was bored alone on our wedding night, so I went out. I didn't expect all this. Clara, do you think it's Ethan? Do you think he's getting back at us because you married me?" The only people who knew about the scapegoat plan were the three of us. With my father gone, it seemed I was retaliating without fear. Clara hesitated, but didn't deny it. A bottle suddenly hit the car window, and the scent of burnt plastic filled the air. "Let's go, Clara! Drive!" Leo yelled, cowering in his seat. Driving through the crowd would mean injuring people, but security was still a ways off. After a moment's hesitation, Clara floored the gas pedal. In a flurry of screams, the car shoved through the crowd, injuring several people but breaking free. In the rearview mirror, Clara could see blood pooling on the pavement under the figures of those who had fallen. Leo patted his chest in relief. How terrifying! Ethan has taken it too far this time. Clara stayed silent, lighting a cigarette. Richard sniffled. "Is Ethan hiding? He's not going to get away with this. I have an idea to force him out, Clara. Let's try it. She glanced at him. Marry me for real and broadcast it everywhere, he proposed. Ethan just wants you back. He won't be able to stand it. And his dad's grave is still in the city, right? Let's threaten to desecrate it. He won't ignore that. After he finished, Clara puffed on her cigarette, a heavy silence hanging between them. Then she agreed. Fine. We'll do it your way. I'll announce our marriage. If Ethan doesn't show up, we'll desecrate his father's grave. That night, they posed as a newly married couple. Clara posted a photo, visible only to me, of their two hands clasped together against the backdrop of her master bedroom. Nothing happened. No likes, no messages. Let's sleep, Clara. It's our wedding night, after all, Leo said, emerging from the bathroom in a robe. Clara brushed him aside. Don't be ridiculous, Leo. You're like a brother to me. She was still holding her phone, constantly refreshing her messages, but there was nothing from me. It was as if I had vanished into thin air. A flash of jealousy crossed Leo's face. Seeing her about to leave, he came up from behind and hugged her. Clara, we're married now, right? You've given him your love. Can't you give me just a little bit? His hand moved insistently towards her chest. At first, she resisted, but then a thought must have crossed her mind. Every woman does this. She loved me, but which of her friends wasn't seeing multiple people? As long as her true love remained me, what was the problem? She had given me money, status. What more could I complain about? Her resolve softened, and she hugged him back. Leo, They both fell onto the bed, but just as things were about to escalate, her phone started ringing. She sat up abruptly. Seeing the caller ID, she hung up, disappointed, intending to continue. But the call came through again, and then again. With no other option, she answered. No sooner had she done so than Leo's phone began to ring as well. Both phones relayed the same frantic message. Something had happened. From 8 p.m. that night, the internet was flooded with ambiguous photos of Leo and Clara, along with detailed stories of her fake double marriage. Hashtags like #ClaraDeceitful, #ClaraFakeMarriage, and #ClaraLeoScapegoat dominated the trending topics. At the same time, Clara received an anonymous multimedia message. It was a photo of our ripped-up wedding portrait and 2 words, break up. The moment she saw it, she knew. I knew everything. In the following days, the situation spun out of control. No matter how hard she tried, the Miller family's stock price continued to plummet. Her family was furious, pressuring her to fix the mess. Even releasing her and Leo's official wedding photos did nothing. Someone claiming to be an employee at the civil registry had already revealed that the Millers had falsified marriage documents. It didn't end there. Leo's history of academic fraud and the incident where he caused a patient's death and blamed it on someone else came to light. Angry mobs targeted him, and the bereaved family somehow found his home address and surrounded his house. The people Clara had hit with her car at the hospital were also demanding justice. The company's stock prices kept falling. Clara was bombarded with phone calls. After ending another one, she angrily smashed an ashtray against the wall. "It's all your fault," she screamed at Leo. "If you hadn't caused all this trouble, none of this would be happening." She lit a cigarette, her face furious. "Leo, we can't cover up the academic fraud anymore. You need to apologize, then resign from the hospital. As for the family, just pay them off." "Why should I apologize?" Leo shrieked. "Ethan signed off on it. It's his mistake. I still want to be a doctor. If I apologize, I'll never be able to practice medicine again. Vivian, can you bear to see me lose my dream?" He pouted, knowing that appealing to her sense of guilt was his best bet. Worn out by his persistence, Clara snorted. "Then pay them more." "That's more like it," he said, relieved. "We need to let everyone know it's not my fault. It's Ethan's. He signed the documents. How can they deny it?" They exchanged these words without a single thought for my dream of being a doctor. Clara's eyes lowered. She thought I had gone too far this time, that I had caused all this trouble out of jealousy. She planned to have a serious talk with me when I returned, but she never got the chance. Just as she sent her assistant to negotiate with the families and have the hospital officially clarify that I was responsible, someone released the surveillance footage. Though it was blurry, it clearly showed Leo leaving the operating room at the time of the incident, while I was seen in the outpatient department helping with consultations. With irrefutable evidence pinned against him, there was no denying it any longer. Just as Clara was about to use her family's power to suppress the mess, she got a call from the police. "Clara Miller, you're under investigation for an assault case. Please come with us." They displayed their badges and took her away. As they let her out, her only request was that she be allowed to keep her phone on. She was still waiting for a call from me. 3 months later, I was in the U.S. It had been summer when I arrived. Now it was fall. I adjusted my coat, pushing my father's wheelchair through the hospital garden. His name was Samuel. Though his legs were still not functional, his condition had improved dramatically. He was no longer in a vegetative state. He was conscious and could respond. "Dad, I hear there's a beautiful ginkgo avenue here. When November comes, I'll take you there," I said. "All right," he replied, patting my hand. "But don't just talk about me. What about you? You're always so busy, remember to rest. That student of Dr. Mason's, Sophie, she seems nice. You should go out with her when she calls." I smiled, but didn't reply. For the first month, I was completely engrossed in my father's care, practically living at the hospital. Once his condition stabilized, I began assisting Dr. Mason with his medical research, spinning like a top every day. The only news I got from back home came from the hacker I had hired. He told me that public opinion had crashed the Miller stocks, that Leo had been fired, and that Clara had been detained briefly. But that was the extent of it. After all, we were just ordinary people. We couldn't truly bring down a powerful family like the Millers. I promptly paid the hacker's fee and made a point to never check for news about them again. By the 3rd month, I had earned a spot as a surgeon in Dr. Mason's private practice. As we reached the hospital entrance, we ran into Sophie. "What brings you here?" I greeted her. "I was just about to take my dad for a walk around town. It's my day off." "I thought you were going to play tennis," she said, walking forward to take the wheelchair from me. "Let me. My plans fell through, so I decided to come see you. Mr. Samuel, how are you feeling today? Any sensation in your legs?" As Dr. Mason's top student, Sophie had naturally become my mentor in the lab. We were both from China, so we chatted more often, and she always looked out for me. "I can sense warmth and cold water, but I don't have the strength to stand yet," my father replied. "But this is fine. It's much better than lying in a bed all day." As they were talking, my phone rang. It was Dr. Mason, asking me to come to the practice. There was a patient specifically looking for me. "Are you sure they're looking for me?" I asked him. "Yeah, Ethan. Thanks for doing this. I know it sucks to work overtime on your day off, but I'll pay you triple." It wasn't about the money. I was okay at medicine, but that was it, just okay. Most people came to the clinic to see Dr. Mason, not me. Who would be seeking me out specifically? After hanging up, I looked at my dad with some regret. "Dad, I guess I can't keep walking with you." "Let me take you back," Sophie said to him, but then added, "I'll keep Uncle company. You go ahead. Maybe it's a patient who heard about your skills and came just to see you. I'll hang out with him for a bit, then come pick you up." She smiled at my father. "Uncle, it'll just be us for a while. How about we go feed some pigeons in the park?" My father beamed. "All right, you go on, Ethan. Sophie is here with me." He waved me off, already excitedly discussing with Sophie which pigeons to look out for. Watching them walk away, I smiled and got in my car to head to the clinic. I put on my doctor's coat and mask and entered my office. "Hello, please take a seat," I said, my voice professional and detached. "Do you have your medical records, or should we do a checkup first?" That detached look in my eyes seemed to pierce Clara's heart. After I left, Clara had been detained for a week. During that time, she hadn't heard a single word from me. Only then did she finally realize that I had truly left her, and that I knew about the fake marriage certificate. She used to think that she had given me her love, a high status, and money, things I could never have gotten on my own. What more could I possibly want? But when I was gone, she realized she couldn't do without me. I was the only one who would stay up all night with her when she had a stomachache, patiently making her porridge. I remembered all her little preferences, like carefully picking the green onions out of her bowl. I was the only one who would indulge her childish whims. She had spent 2 months sorting out her personal affairs before coming to the States to find me. Now she stared at me with a mixture of hope and desperation. "Ethan!" I tapped the table lightly with my fingers. "Miss, please tell me about your symptoms. I assume you're not feeling well. I heard you're looking for an excellent surgeon, and surely you wouldn't let personal feelings affect your professional judgment." Leo, who had been ignored since they entered, spoke up. "My wrist is injured. I'm a doctor too, and I hope to be able to hold a scalpel again." He extended his hand toward me, his eyes locked on mine. The redness and swelling on his wrist weren't obvious, but his claim of being a doctor amused me. I typed on the computer without looking at him. "Sir, if you were really a doctor, you wouldn't be coming to see me." I handed him a medical slip with a blank expression. "Turn left, then go up to the 3rd floor. A nurse will guide you to get an X-ray. Come back and see me after you're done." "Clara, come with me," Leo whined, pulling at her sleeve. Clara remained still. "You can go by yourself. I have things to discuss with him." She frowned, her eyes flashing a warning. Leo winced under her stare and sullenly took the slip and left. In just 3 months, Clara's attitude toward him had changed drastically. Not that I cared. When I realized she had deceived me, I knew she was capable of doing the same to anyone. "Is there anything else?" I asked, my tone flat. Wounded, she stared at me. "Ethan, do you have to talk to me like this? I know I messed up, but don't worry, I haven't married Leo. You and I are the real deal. I'm not agreeing to a divorce." I corrected her coolly. "Clara, it's not a divorce. It's a breakup. We were never legally registered, so how can we get a divorce?" Her heart stung by my indifference. She tried again. "Ethan, I ignored her, focusing on the medical file in front of me. Wearing my frameless glasses, the focused expression I had when I worked gave me a cool charm, a stark contrast to the warm, doting person I used to be with her. She was my patient when we first met. I would visit her with a medical chart under my arm, my demeanor professional, yet my actions kind. She couldn't help but be drawn to me. But things had changed. I was busy, often coming home late, but I always cared deeply about her. Early on, those check-in calls felt like love, but later she grew annoyed, ignoring my calls, claiming she was busy with work, and never pushing Leo away. She probably thought her behavior was normal, that she was staying loyal to me in her heart. Now she seemed to think that if she apologized and let me take my anger out on Leo, everything would be fixed. "Ethan, I know Leo tormented you and let people mistreat you," she said earnestly. "I brought him here so you could get your revenge. His hand was hurt because of me. He kept you from practicing medicine, so I'll make sure he loses his ability to ever hold a scalpel again." Her eyes were sincere. "You can take action during the surgery. I'll make sure you're protected." The woman who was once willing to risk my father's life to protect Leo was now casually suggesting I cripple him. I looked at her for a long moment. "Clara," I said quietly, "it seems I never truly knew you." I politely asked her to leave my office and assured her that I would never do such a thing. When she was gone, I saw Leo in the hallway, holding his exam sheet. He shot me a venomous glare, as if he had overheard Clara's words. I had no interest in their drama and shut my door. A moment later, I heard shouting and the sharp sound of a slap from the hallway. 3 months ago, Clara would have fought the world for Leo. Now she slapped him and plotted to have his hand ruined. On the computer, I entered my final notes for the day. My gaze softened only when I saw a new message from Sophie. She had sent a picture, a serene scene of my father in his wheelchair, with pigeons resting peacefully on him, one perched trustingly in his hand. The image exuded a warmth and peace that made me long to be there. I packed up quickly. Richard's exam results would be ready soon, but I didn't want to wait. After half an hour, only Clara returned. "Ethan," she said, her voice hopeful, "I've made dinner reservations at a Chinese restaurant. Come eat with me. Their dishes are all your favorites. Once we go back home, we can finalize everything. You, me, and your dad will be a family." She watched me intently. "Miss," I reminded her, "I'm waiting for a patient. We are not familiar with each other. Plus, I have plans tonight. Our hospital policy restricts private interactions between doctors and patients." "Ethan, Leo already left," she said, exasperated. "He didn't want you to perform the surgery, so he left. But don't worry, I'll bring him back. However he treated you, I'll treat him the same." She started talking to herself, not giving me a chance to say anything. I couldn't be bothered with her. Since Leo had left, there was no reason for me to wait. I took off my white coat and left on my own. I got in my car and drove away, right in front of her, not giving her a chance to approach. My indifference was absolute. It was as if we were complete strangers, and she was just some persistent person I didn't know. When we were together, no matter what she did, I would always wait for her. I used to say our shoulders had to be in line with each other for our relationship to last. This was the first time I had ever just walked away from her. She followed me in her car. I drove to the park. After parking, I saw a cotton candy vendor and bought 2, one shaped like a rabbit. Even though Sophie was in her 30s, she still loved childish treats like this. I approached her with the rabbit-shaped cotton candy. "Here's your reward," I said. "A reward for being so sweet every day." I gave the other one to my father. "Dad, after this, no more candy for you tonight. You need to practice moderation." My father chuckled. All right, I got it." "What about me? Can I have a little bit more?" Sophie asked, tearing off the rabbit's ear. But instead of eating it, she offered it to me. "Ethan, you go first." I took a bite from her hand. The foreign cotton candy had the same shape as the ones back home, but it lacked a certain sweetness. Still, it stirred some memories. "Same rule for you," I said, giving her arm a playful nudge. "Everyone gets a set amount of candy." We laughed, and then I asked her a few questions about my father's health. The two of them pushed my father along the lawn as the now fed pigeons occasionally flew over us. It was a harmonious and beautiful scene. Clara, unfamiliar with the area, had trouble finding parking and arrived 10 minutes later. As she approached, she saw the 3 of us from afar, and the sight was jarring to her. She clenched her fists and strode over. "Dad, how are you feeling?" She was all smiles as she crouched in front of my father's wheelchair. "It's me, Clara. It's my fault. I should have been here with you for your treatment. After all, I am your daughter-in-law." My father's response was not what she expected. His tone was cold as he said, "Clara, you must be joking. Daughter-in-law? You and my son haven't even registered your marriage. Are you planning on sticking around to pull my oxygen cord again?" Though he had been in a vegetative state, he had retained some awareness. He had heard her threats in the hospital but had been unable to speak up. Hearing him call her out made Clara's expression falter. She maintained her fake smile. "Dad, what are you talking about? Ethan and I are married. You even said you wanted a grandchild from us. I admit I messed up at the hospital, but that was an accident. I've already punished Leo. It won't happen again. Please, give me another chance." With that, she stood up and instinctively tried to take Sophie's place behind the wheelchair. But Sophie, though slim, was surprisingly strong from her regular exercise routine. She held the wheelchair's handles firmly. "Clara, let me handle this. It's not for you to worry about Ethan and Uncle." "Who are you?" "This is between Ethan and me," Clara snapped. "I suggest you butt out." "Please call me Uncle," my father interjected. "And Sophie, she's one of us. You're the outsider here. You're the one who should butt out. Ethan, let's go." Without giving Clara another look, he motioned for me to leave with him. Clara turned to me with a pitiful expression, but I ignored her completely. "Dad, Sophie, I know a spot with some street performers up ahead. Let's go check it out," I suggested. "After the show, we can grab some dinner." "Sure," Sophie agreed easily. "We can pick up some ingredients, and I can cook for you at your place, Ethan." "Great, I'm looking forward to it." The two of us chatted and laughed, my eyes twinkling with a joy I hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, Clara stood alone, ignored, watching me. She must have remembered a time when I used to look at her that way. Back then, it didn't matter what I was doing. Just seeing her would bring a smile to my face. People say you only smile genuinely when you see the one you truly love. Had I fallen for this woman then? The thought alone must have made her feel suffocated. She tailed us like a stalker, watching us attend a musical performance together, share a meal at the same table, and then even return to my home. It wasn't until Sophie finally left for the night that Clara breathed a sigh of relief. For the entire next week, Clara showed up at my house every day, trailing me to work like a shadow. Since it was a hospital with people constantly coming and going, and since she wasn't causing any real trouble, there was no clear reason to have her removed. I had thought Leo would have exploded at Clara after learning about her intentions for him, but instead, he acted like nothing had happened, continuing to seek treatment from me and even trying to win her back. "Clara, even if he ignores you, I won't. Let's go back. I'll cook for you," he'd plead. "Get away from me," she would hiss, pushing him away whenever I came near. "Ethan, I brought you breakfast." I wouldn't even glance her way. I was too busy discussing a patient's condition and the upcoming surgery plan with Sophie. Clara was getting on my last nerve. Before I even reached the elevator one morning, she was already hovering. "Ethan, you haven't had breakfast, have you? I brought your favorite dim sum, made by a chef I specially hired from back home." She was like glue, trying to follow me into the elevator, but Sophie stopped her. "Clara, unauthorized personnel are not allowed in this area. Also, let me remind you, you have no relationship with Ethan. Your behavior is causing him distress. If you continue, he can call the police." Sophie blocked the elevator, pressing the close button and only releasing her hand after the doors had shut and the elevator began to ascend. Clara's pleasant facade was reserved only for me. The moment I was gone, her expression changed. "Who do you think you are? You have no say in matters between Ethan and me." Sophie's eyes were cold, almost as if she were a different person. "Clara, life hasn't been easy for you back home, has it? Some things you can cover up, but some you can't. I'm afraid the Miller family can barely take care of themselves right now, let alone you chasing after Ethan all the way over here. If the Millers fall, I wonder if you'll still be in the mood for this nonsense. Oh wait, the Millers have already taken a huge hit because of your antics, haven't they? Their stock prices keep dropping. How much longer can you keep this up?" After she said this, Clara's eyes flickered. The Millers were indeed not in a good place. The explosive news from 3 months ago, especially the parts involving medical malpractice, was impossible to suppress completely. With Leo being pushed into the spotlight as a villain, he didn't dare let go of Clara, hoping to use the Miller family to rise again. But the Millers were struggling, and with Clara's mind completely focused on me, the company's affairs were in disarray. "None of your business," Clara snorted. "Once Ethan returns home with me, everything will be fine." She pressed the up button to follow me, and Sophie, without another word, followed her into the next elevator. As they both disappeared, Leo, his face dark, stepped out from behind a pillar. Once again, it was me. He had thought that coming abroad would make her settle down, but he never would have guessed that she would still be so obsessed with me. A vicious glint flashed in his eyes. After a moment, he took the stairs. That morning, I had a surgery scheduled, with 2 reports to review in the afternoon. The surgery was set to start at 9 a.m. sharp. After changing, I did my morning rounds. Just as I was leaving a patient's room, a bucket of cold water was dumped over my head. "Ethan, go to hell! It's your fault for tempting Clara!" Leo tossed the bucket aside and pulled out a large watermelon knife, aiming straight for my chest. He attacked fiercely, and though I dodged quickly, the blade still managed to slash my shoulder. "You're crazy!" I shouted, but he was completely unhinged. He brandished the knife, his eyes bloodshot as he charged at me again. "I'm crazy, all right. If I can't have you, no one can." A sane person has no way of handling a lunatic. Fearing that I would injure my hands, the most important tool of my trade, I didn't dare resist with my right hand, only dodging his attacks repeatedly. He seemed to sense this vulnerability and aimed the knife once more at my hand. At that critical moment, Sophie rushed in and shielded me with her own body. The knife stabbed deep into her shoulder. She grunted in pain, but managed to kick him away. Clara, arriving a step too late, rushed to my side, her face full of concern. "Ethan, are you badly hurt? Let me help you bandage it." I pushed her away, my voice colder than ever before. "Clara, control your people. I'm reporting this to the police." I then went to check on Sophie's wound. It was a regular fruit knife, intimidating but not deeply piercing. I helped her up. "Senior Sis, let's get your wound treated. I've already called the police." Sophie nodded, and neither of us spared another glance at Leo or Clara. While Clara wanted to say more, hospital staff had already arrived and were stopping her. "Miss, please come with us." "Ha ha ha. Vivian, he doesn't want you. He doesn't want you." Leo laughed, a crazed sound. He was disheveled, with a footprint on his chest, looking nothing like the rich heir he was supposed to be. "You're stuck with me. I'm the right match for you. You said you'd marry me. How can you change your heart?" He babbled on, even as the police arrived and took him away. Meanwhile, Sophie and I never made another appearance in the matter, letting our lawyers handle everything. Even Clara's desperate pleas to see me were met with a cold reply from my lawyer. "Miss Miller, my client does not wish to see you. Please respect his wishes." For the first time, Clara truly realized she might have lost me forever. Her Ethan no longer loved her. With that thought, her gaze, as she looked at Leo in the holding cell, became colder than ever. I was kidnapped while on my way to deliver some gauze and iodine for Sophie's wound. As I was walking down the street, a car pulled up beside me. Before I could react, someone covered my mouth and nose from behind with a cloth that smelled of chemicals, and I was knocked unconscious. I awoke in an abandoned warehouse, blinking away the tears caused by the glaring overhead light. "Clara, what are you doing?" I was tied to a chair, and facing me was Clara. On the floor nearby, Leo lay disheveled, surrounded by an array of surgical knives. Clara was sterilizing one of them under the stark light, looking ghostly. At the sound of my voice, she turned and smiled. "Ethan, he hurt you. I'm going to make him pay." Seeing her smile, I felt a jolt of pure fear. I kicked at the ground, trying to back my chair away from her. The fear in my eyes was evident. For a moment, she looked hurt. "Ethan, I'm doing this for you," she pleaded. "How can you be scared of me?" She composed herself. "Once I get revenge for you, we'll go back home, and everything will be normal again. You'll forgive me, right?" She was clearly unstable. Fearing I would provoke her further, I stayed silent. Just then, Leo, who was lying on the floor, began to wake up. At first, he looked delighted to see her, but then his expression turned to one of terror. "Clara, what are you doing? Let me go!" Clara's eyes darkened. "Because of you, Ethan hates me. Once I punish you, he'll forgive me." Crouching down with the surgical knife in her hand, she warned him, "Everyone pays for their actions." Leo froze, then let out a manic laugh. "Consequences? Clara, shouldn't you be the one paying the price? You were the mastermind behind everything. You're the real culprit. What are you waiting for? Stab yourself if you're so gutsy." He taunted her, laughing even as he urged her on. "Do it! What's stopping you?" "Ah!" Leo screamed as Clara, seemingly deaf to his words, plunged the knife into his arm. She pulled it out and plunged it in again, blood splattering across her face. "You're right. It is my fault," she muttered, as if in a trance. "I am the one to blame." Turning, she walked towards me, clutching the bloody knife, her eyes wild with madness. Panic-stricken, I tried to calculate my next move. Her mental state was clearly gone. But before I could say or do anything, she acted. She raised the knife and, amidst my terrified gaze, plunged it deep into her own chest. "Ethan, you hate me," she gasped. "I'll kill myself to make it up to you. Will you forgive me now?" She collapsed at my feet, her blood soaking my legs and arms in a tragic spectacle. But my eyes showed no hint of sympathy, only fear. "Clara, was it worth it?" Half conscious, she heard my cold, detached voice. "Wrong is wrong. No matter what you do, we can't go back to the way things were. I will never forgive you." The sound of sirens grew louder as the police burst in. Both Clara and Leo had fainted from blood loss. Sophie rushed to my side. "Ethan, are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. I shook my head. "I'm fine." Sophie quickly untied the ropes around me, her concern evident as she saw the red marks on my wrists. I could feel her trembling as she held me close. "I'm really okay," I reassured her. "She didn't mean to hurt me. She just wanted to teach Leo a lesson." Even though Clara had looked terrifying, I knew the knife was never meant for me. But her sudden descent into madness had shaken me to the core. Luckily, Sophie had called the police the moment she couldn't reach me. The police took Leo and Clara to the hospital, and I went along to give my statement. News came from the hospital that Leo's hand was so severely injured that he would never be able to use his right hand again. Although Clara's self-inflicted stab wound wasn't fatal, she had hit her head hard when she fell, and was now in a vegetative state. Clara had once threatened to let my own father die in a vegetative state to protect Leo. Now, one of them was crippled, and the other might never wake up. When I heard the news, I could only think of one saying, "What goes around comes around." "Whatever happens to them has nothing to do with us," I said to Sophie later. "Let's go back home next year. By then, my dad's condition will have improved." I smiled gently at her. "We're from China anyway. Going back makes sense. I have some friends there I'd like you to meet." Sophie agreed immediately. "Okay, we'll move back to China. We can buy a house that you like. If you'd rather not work in a hospital, you could open a private clinic or a health facility. Whatever you like," she suggested, her eyes sparkling as she painted a picture of our future together. I leaned next to her, listening quietly until she carefully asked, "Ethan," I said, "we. Do you understand what I mean?" We hadn't known each other long, but so much had happened. After the incident with Clara, I had considered being alone for the rest of my life, but Sophie was different. She cautiously tested the boundaries and gently accepted me, even knowing my past. She would patiently talk me through my issues and had rushed to help me blindly when I was in danger. I noticed the vulnerability in her eyes. I mischievously asked, "What if I don't understand you?" "I'm just scared," she admitted, her voice soft. "Marriage feels like a gamble, especially after everything with Clara." Before she could finish, she put a pile of bank cards and ID cards in my hand and opened her banking app right in front of me. "I have some stocks that aren't liquid yet, but I have over 10 million in cash, and I'm transferring it all to you now. You'll own everything. You'll have the power to leave me whenever you want. I have properties in the States and in China, and I'll transfer those to you when we go back. Our money will be your money. Being with me means you can always walk away, and I'll be the one left behind. I'm not saying this because I think you care about money, but because I want to give you everything. Just give me a chance." Her voice was earnest, yet a little self-deprecating. I quickly grabbed her phone to stop the transfer. Okay, who needs your money? I have a salary, remember?" Sophie let out a quiet, "Oh," and hung her head like a disappointed puppy. I couldn't help but soften. I patted her head. "Didn't we say we'd go back next year? For now, let's focus on our work. We should help Dr. Mason recruit some new staff." Noticing she hadn't moved, I reached out and took her hand. At the slightest touch, her eyes widened in disbelief. I just smiled softly at her. "Ethan," she whispered. I gave our intertwined hands a slight shake. "Coming?" "Coming?" she replied with determination. "You're the one who held my hand first," I teased. "You can't let go now." "Maybe you'll be the one to let go first," she retorted, holding on tighter. "No way." We were as childish as two kids in kindergarten, walking hand in hand toward the hospital, the sun stretching our shadows long behind us. A year later, Sophie, my father, and I boarded a plane back home. Just after landing, I noticed a news report on an airport TV. The Miller Group was going through bankruptcy restructuring, and the original heiress, Clara Miller, was still in a coma. I glanced at it briefly before looking over at Sophie. We exchanged a look, and then we both smiled. Together, we pushed our luggage slowly toward the exit. The road ahead was long, but having someone by your side on this journey of life, it didn't sound too bad at all.